I think the mentality that drives the IDF for Israel to continue taking settlements in the West Bank or being kind of not like being willing to continue the war in Gaza, what's driving that is a lack of empathy for Palestinians. I think if they had more empathy for Palestinians, they'd be less likely to do those things, because how we feel about people drives what we do, right?
Maybe. I don't think so, though. No, I don't
You don't think
so.
so?
No, I don't think so.
Do you think that the fact that a lot of Israeli leaders have said comments like just dehumanizing the Palestinians, you don't think that's related to their actions?
I think it plays a part. I don't know if it would be the major thing, and I don't know if it would be the thing I would try to change them. Maybe I would, because it's like the easiest thing to change is how people feel about it.
It has to be. If you get leaders of, Yoav Gallant said, "We are fighting." This is quote: "We are fighting human animals. We must act accordingly." Later, Naftali Bennett said, "We are fighting Nazis." Netanyahu said, "Remember when Amalek has done to you?" Blah blah blah. They call them human animals. Like that rhetoric. You see that rhetoric, and you see what's going on, and you say, I wonder if there's a connection. They're calling them human animals, and then they're treating them like human animals. Maybe they're acting based on how they feel towards them.
I mean, like I'm sure there's a connection. I think at this point in my career, I'm so tired of hearing about people talk about like empathy, but then the policy positions don't match it at all. It just doesn't seem to like matter much. Like having empathy is like a good first step, but people act like it's everything. Like there has to be way more policy wonky discussion going on. We have to have way more strong positions. It's not enough to just have empty empathy where we just say like, man, I feel bad for these people as we continue to push the buttons to drop more bombs on them. Like,
action is all that matters, right? My point is that action is driven by what's in here, like you're feeling, like what you want to do, by intention. Call it whatever you want, intention, empathy, use whatever noun. But the point is that if there's not a respect, if they don't see the other side as being human, they're not going to treat them as human.
Sure. Right? You just got to be careful how hard you yank that empathy chain, because emotions can take you to really scary places, right? Like the
I don't
emotions
think it's scary to say have empathy. Just view Palestinians as humans. That's a good start.
Sure, it can be, but like remember, empathy is what leads countries to do insane things in the first place, right? Fear responses are conditioned a lot sometimes off of the empathy that we have for our fellow human beings. The empathy that we felt for people jumping out of towers on 9/11 is what got us into war in the Middle East with Iraq and Afghanistan. And the empathy that Israel's felt for their fellow countrymen on October 7th and the videos they saw there probably drove a lot of the national sentiment towards the current war in Gaza. I think it's good to view people as people. Like you should have some level of empathy, but like this is like step one of like a 100-step process towards like actually effecting some kind of real change, I think. Yeah.
So I think it's pragmatically of utmost importance. And here's an example. The reason why the world, like a huge part of the world, condemns Israel right now is not because of data points. It's because they're like, holy shit, Israel just killed 40,000 fucking Palestinians and they've destroyed 80% of Gaza. That's horrible. And they're not crunching numbers. They're having the world, like France, all these countries are having an emotional reaction to what Israel is doing. And that emotional reaction is in a very real terms, hurting Israel. So therefore, it matters. Like you might not want it to matter, but it does. Like how the impact that Israel has in the world hurts Israel's security.
I mean, does it matter?
So
let's look at the international. Who do you think there's more empathy for right now? Palestinians getting bombed or the victims of October 7th?
The former, the Palestinians getting bombed,
right?
Because there's way more, as there should be. There's way more.
But how is that helping them? How has it helped them?
So one way it's helped them is that now there's a lot of pressure on Israel to have a ceasefire. Maybe if there wasn't the pressure. What?
Where's the ceasefire at?
Maybe if there wasn't the pressure, Israel would have killed 100,000 Palestinians by now.
Maybe they would have, but
actually, I think that's a reasonable claim. I think they're being less aggressive than they would be if it weren't for the world condemning them.
Possibly, maybe it might help a little bit, but it doesn't seem like it's causing like any major shift. Like Israel is persecuting their war in the way that they wanted to. They're looking for Hamas, and as soon as they're going to continue it until they feel like they've finished their mission, basically, right? And now they're potentially on the eve of war with, I don't know, with Hezbollah or with Iran. I haven't followed stuff recently. I don't know how close they are to moving in that direction, but I I don't disagree.
So
I'm fighting a lot on this point. I'm just fighting a lot on this point because I've noticed sometimes that empathy is married with empty rhetoric or policy or lack of policy, and that drives me crazy. You are right. Like, you need some level of empathy. If you view people as animals, it makes it much easier to kill those people and
yeah,
to do horrible
of
things to
course.
them. But man, the focus on empathy, like a person persuaded with empathy can be persuaded against, with empathy. And it's just, that's a scary world to live in. People need to think a little bit more critically about
A
what's going on.
person not using empathy is going to do sick things.
Maybe. I think things can work in weird ways. I think that Israel's disengagement from Gaza, I think, was good when it happened. And when I spoke with Yossi Balin, he told me that Sharon had told him that the reason why he wanted disengagement, because I asked Balin, I was like, why unilateral disengagement seems like such a bad idea? And Balin was like, Sharon told me he doesn't trust anything an Arab says. And I was like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, in 2005, he still said this. Balin was like, I can't believe it. He's like, yeah, I don't trust anything Arabs say. And Sharon, arguably, wanted to pull out of not just Gaza, but the West Bank as well. These are one of the things that, oh my God, fuck, I just forgot his name. I shouldn't forget this guy's name. Shlomo Ben-Ami told me. He said that the real tragedy was Sharon dying of a stroke. It wasn't actually the assassination of Rabin. It was Sharon dying of a stroke, because if Rabin would have survived and continued living, he would have ran into all the same problems we have today, probably. But if Sharon would have stayed alive, Sharon probably would have actually done full disengagement of the West Bank. There were some settlements that were destroyed, and Sharon didn't trust Arabs at all. So there's just like, I agree with you in the general, but I think too much focus sometimes goes on to like this empathy point, and more needs to be focused on like, what is the actual policy that's going to solve this problem, instead of the kumbayas and the nice tweets. Not that that's all you're suggesting we do, but yeah.